What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another My Week With video. So this time I have spent a week with the 2020 Hyundai Sonata Limited. So this is the 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, the 8-speed automatic, and it's a very nice combo, and living with the Sonata has been really great. One thing that I was actually pleasantly surprised by was the power. So, this doesn't have a lot of horsepower by the numbers, 180 horsepower, 191 pound-feet of torque. But in my experience, the way the transmission is programmed so well, it's always in the meat of the power band, and it feels very punchy at low RPM. So much so that it feels like it wants to break the tires loose if you get on it a little bit too quickly from a stop and stuff. So, whenever I was in Arizona, and I did my full review on this video several months back, you can go watch that video, by the way, if you want to hear all the features of the Sonata. There's a ton of them. I'm not going to go over all the high-tech stuff again in this video. I'm mostly just going to focus on what it's like to live with the Sonata here and more practical stuff. But it's very, very high tech, and compared to most of the competition, this has it beat as far as feature content goes, which is something that Hyundai is very, very good at, is just giving you tons and tons of features for less money than most of the competitors. And I'll get to pricing a little bit later on because there are some interesting caveats to that. But anyway, so was very impressed with this powertrain combo. Very, very good. I'm sure the standard naturally aspirated engine would also be good if you don't need the turbo fuel efficiency and the slight additional edge you get as far as low end torque here in the turbo that you don't get with the standard 4-cylinder. But I was really impressed with it. I was also impressed with the ride. It's just a very smooth, a very easy car to live with. That's the Sonata. Is it has all this high tech stuff which really does dazzle you, but at the same time everything still blends into the background nicely. And if you're just trying to go about your daily life, get from point A to point B, and do it in comfort and serenity, the Sonata is a great choice for that, and it certainly does that very well. Another thing the Sonata does very well is its fuel economy. So this engine did not disappoint. I was pleasantly surprised. So I drove this vehicle 146 miles here so far, and in my week of driving, my average MPG was 28.2 MPG. And so I did do a decent amount of highway driving. I'd say maybe a third of my mileage was on the highway. But still, I was pretty impressed with the fuel economy, because these are only rated at 27 in the city, 36 on the highway, and 31 combined. And so I didn't do quite a 50-50 split, so I wasn't expecting to get that combined 31 number. And oftentimes in most of the vehicles that I have for a week and do my normal driving in, I often find myself struggling to even get the city rating, even if I do a decent amount of highway driving. So for this to be better than the city rating, I'm getting 28.2. I'm quite happy with that. I think for a mid-sized sedan like this, to be getting over 28 MPG is actually pretty good and very impressive, and especially considering it's a turbo motor, and oftentimes with turbos you get on that boost and the fuel economy plummets. Not so with this one, at least. It's doing a very good job here of sipping fuel, and so I was actually really impressed with that. So it makes a very economical choice while still having plenty of space, plenty of power, lots of tech and all that. And so again, another thing that's very impressive about the Sonata. But it's not all perfect with the Sonata. There are some imperfections to it for sure. So the first thing that I noticed in the first few hours of driving the Sonata here is the wind noise you get. You have a decent amount of wind noise around the window area, and it's so much so that I actually had to check multiple times to make sure the windows were rolled up all the way, because I was like, surely the windows have to be cracked with how much wind noise I was getting, and they weren't. They weren't cracked. It was just, you get some wind noise around that window area. I think some of it comes from the side mirror as well. So a little bit less refined than most of the competitors. I really don't notice wind noise around the window area. In a lot of other vehicles, there's hardly any vehicles where I actually notice that anymore. So not the most refined. You still do get a little bit more road noise than some of the competitors as well in this. And so even though there's like double pane glass up front here and many other things in the Limited, it's better as far as refinement goes than the old Sonata for sure, but to me it still isn't best in class as far as refinement, not even close. Especially, like I said, a lot of it is just road noise that comes through. And so you have a comfortable but still a noisier cabin than what you get with some of the competition. And so that's just one little thing to note. Another thing that might be because this is probably like a very early or pre-production version of the Sonata is that there was a rattle around the front of the panoramic glass roof here. And so I'm not not sure why it was rattling. It sounded like it was the wind deflector that was like rattling or something, even though it's retracted because I hadn't opened the moonroof at all in my time with this vehicle. But that was rattling a little bit, so it's a little bit of a fit and finish thing. Hopefully that's something that will be fixed for production, but just another little thing that again detracted from the high quality look and feel of this interior. Another thing that was kind of disappointing was this highway drive assist feature that Hyundai has. So one of the very high-tech features is that the Sonata now, with most of these higher levels of the Sonata, do the highway driving assist feature, which will do your steering assist for you on the highway. It's much like many other systems now that other companies use that, you know, will do some of this steering for you. You still have to have your hands on the wheel and be paying attention and everything. But so Hyundai's version of this is disappointing, and I actually noticed this on the press drive in Arizona several months ago, where it actually didn't hold the lane, and there was one time where it went outside of the lane and did not hold its lane. And this is the only system I've encountered that fails that much at steering. And so I wanted to try it on my own roads though and see if it was just a fluke back then. And so I took it on some highway S-bends that we have around my area here, used the steering assist, and lo and behold, it was struggling to stay in those lanes again. And although it didn't veer completely out of the lane, it was ping-ponging back and forth this time a lot. I mean, honestly, if someone was following behind me on those S-bends and watching me drive, they'd probably think I was drunk because of how much it ping-pongs back and forth, and it really is just a little bit unrefined. And I'm still disappointed with the highway drive assist thing. And so unfortunately, the way that it's bundled, it basically comes with most packages. Here in the Limited, you get everything, so it's an automatic inclusion in that. But even like an SEL Plus, if you want to get some of the nicer high-end features like the Bose stereo and stuff, it's bundled in a big tech package where you get this as well. So basically, thankfully, you don't have to use the highway drive assist. You can just still use the normal adaptive cruise control and steer yourself. I'm glad they still let you use that because the steering assist would be annoying if it kept failing and you know, not actually helping you. So not a big fan of that, but you can just ignore it, and shouldn't be a big deal there. But it's kind of disappointing that, you know, a lot of the other systems like Honda Sensing with their lane keeping assist system, it does a very good job. Toyota's isn't the greatest either, but theirs still holds into the lane a little bit better than Hyundai's system here does. And so, and there's many others from other companies that are really good, like Volvo's Pilot Assist, which really is dedicated to keeping you in your lane. This is definitely one of the lower ranking systems still in my book. So I wouldn't buy this for its advanced cruise control or anything like that, but I think all the other tech and stuff in here is very cool. I'll briefly mention the Bose stereo in here. It's this Bose Centerpoint stereo, and using, you know, even just Bluetooth audio streaming does a really good job. It is a very good system, and thankfully that is something you can actually get still on like a standard SEL in a premium package. So if you do want some of these higher end features, you can get some of those in the lower trim levels as well, and so that's great. I still don't love, I love the screen size here and the way the screen is set up. The menus are all very easy, but I still hate how you don't have a tune knob, and the seek track function is all the way over very far away here, so you have to use the steering wheel controls because that's so much of a reach and so much of a pain since they're capacitive touch buttons. Not a great design there. If you don't need the Bose stereo though, and you're okay with the smaller screen, the standard radio is an 8-inch touchscreen, which is still really great, and that does have a tune knob. So if you want a tune knob in a 2020 Sonata, go for one of the lower trim levels without this big 12-inch widescreen display, and then you will have a tune knob again. So just a little interesting thing to note there. But overall, you know, I was really impressed with the Sonata in my week of it. Like I said, it still just nicely blends into the background, but it is a little pricey, and that's the last thing I want to mention here is the pricing. So this one, as tested, is about $34,500, including destination. And you know, it's not bad because of all the high-tech feature content you get, but if you are someone who does value horsepower, basically all the competition will give you at least 50 more horsepower. Most of them will be like 70 more horsepower for the same money. And actually, like the Mazda 6 in its Grand Touring Reserve trim, that'll give you the 2.5-liter turbocharged engine in the Mazda 6 there that has 250 horsepower. So you got 70 more horsepower than you have in this. It's a plusher interior. You have padded knee areas. It's a quieter interior. You don't have as much high-tech stuff. You know, you're still using a controller instead of a touchscreen. But you do still have heads-up display, digital gauges, all those types of things in the Mazda 6, and it'll give it all that stuff to you for about $2,000 cheaper than the Sonata here in its limited trim. And so I think the value proposition of the Sonata goes away once you get up towards these limited versions. As far as midsize sedans go, the Sonata is the lowest price one as far as starting prices go. And I think when in the lower trims, you know, the SEL and stuff, I think it still makes a lot of sense and is probably going to be one of the better picks, especially considering you get Hyundai's 10-year and 100,000 mile warranty and all that type of stuff. I think the Hyundai is going to be a really solid choice if you're going for the lower trim versions. But once you get up to these limited ones, 34.5, if I'm paying that much money, I want more power personally as an enthusiast. If you don't care about more power, then that 34.5, you know, you're paying a little bit more than the competition. You do get extra tech the competition doesn't have, like of course the Smart Park feature, which was heavily publicized over the Super Bowl and stuff. All those things are things you just flat out don't get in the competition. So, you know, if you want that kind of stuff, then maybe the extra money will be worth it for you. Me personally, though, you know, I can get all these same features in something like a Honda Accord 2.0T Touring and get, you know, again, 252 horsepower, 270 pound-feet of torque. So you're 90 more pound-feet of torque than what you get in this, or 80 more pound-feet. And so it's going to feel massively more powerful. The Accord handles better, is sportier feeling. I like the way those drive much better. And the Accord is, you know, about $2,500 more. But, you know, for that amount of money, you get way more power. You get a snappier 10-speed automatic. You still get great tech, most of the same features you get here in this. I think I still would spend a little bit more money for the Accord personally. If you're a high-tech lover, then the Sonata will probably be a great pick. And again, if you want something that's better value, I think the Mazda 6 is a very solid value. And the fact they've been on the market for several years means you're likely to get a better deal on a Mazda 6 than you would on a brand new Sonata, which is, you know, hot off the press here, you know, just being introduced a couple of months ago. So that's where the Sonata sits right now in my mind. I think it's a very great competitor. I'm really glad that Hyundai put so much into this brand new Sonata, considering, you know, sedans are shrinking as a market and all that type of stuff. I think that, you know, this is a very, very impressive car. I love that they were bold with the styling choices on it, and like I said, it's just a very impressive car. But again, because of the price and the way it's set up, I don't think it would be my pick, just because I'm an enthusiast. I love power and handling and all that kind of stuff, and the Sonata is more attuned to those people who are just the average everyday shopper and everyday driver that just wants comfort and you know, tech features, and for them this is going to be very good. But yeah, so anyway, that's all my thoughts here on the 2020 Hyundai Sonata Limited. Be sure, if you want, you can either go watch my full review that I did several months ago where I go over all the features here of the 2020 Sonata, or you can go watch, I've posted an interior review that me and my wife did. So if you'd like to hear some of the interior and what it's like from a female perspective, or just from someone who isn't myself, you can go watch that video as well. But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.